Next on Worcester News tonight, rainy conditions today causing flooding issues all over central Massachusetts. Plus, Worcester has received a grant to make improvements to one of the city's parks. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Anna Botari. We begin tonight with the weather in what was a wet marathon Monday. Central Massachusetts was hit with heavy rain and some flooding throughout the course of the day. But for some, it wasn't just rain covering the streets. Our Cam Jandro has the details.
Anna, the second week of April came to a very nice close. Both Friday and Saturday saw temperatures hovering right around the 60s, but we can't say the same about the start of the third week. Both Sunday and today, things have been wet and temperatures were hovering right around freezing. I'm in downtown Worcester and it's not raining right now, but that wasn't the case for most of today.
It's been really sad. I thought that it was going to be nice and warm this week, but no, not really. The weather surprised us.
A cold, soaking wet Patriots day, not a welcome sight to parents with kids on school vacation, or to residents like Joe Worsall, who got a surprise when he looked outside his window Monday morning.
I thought it was gone until I woke up this morning and found that it was snowing out again and sleeting out again. I thought all this stuff was behind us when we had a few days of nice weather last week.
The scaffolding on the front of Worcester's Union Station was pelted with rain. Street flooding and in some cases ice left over from the morning made it an interesting commute for drivers.
I almost didn't come out today because I didn't know what the roads were going to be like when I left. I live in the country in Princeton, so it's the roads out there aren't sanded as well as they are here in the city.
The area was in a flash flood warning for a good part of Monday afternoon. For some, it still feels like winter, even though the calendar says otherwise.
I was planning on taking my son and the dog out to the park, but I can't because of the weather. Yeah, it feels like spring never gonna come.
Now, while the rain has stopped here in downtown Worcester, the fog has begun to work its way into the area, and drivers are urged to take their time on the roadways. Hard to believe we're halfway through April, and this is the kind of weather we're having. Reporting in Worcester, I'm Cam Jandro. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Cam. Shrewsbury also experiencing some flooding problems today. A portion of Route 9 closed this afternoon due to flooding. Police and cleanup crews were on scene to help brush water off of the streets and into the storm drain. The process allowed for one lane to open, alleviating traffic during rush hour. And for those running the Boston Marathon, the conditions were not ideal, but thousands of runners braved today's cold and rain for the 122nd running of the marathon. As Chandler Walsh explains, spectators and runners alike say extra layers are key for today.
Streets were filled with water, and the crowd at the start of the Boston Marathon was smaller than usual. The Boston Athletic Association says it's likely their coldest marathon start in 30 years.
Can't feel my fingers already.
Some were still willing to brave the outdoors to support the runners in Hopkinton.
It's so cold and so rainy, you can see that there's hardly anybody that's come out to cheer the runners on, so we figured we better come here and cheer loud.
Runners were out in the conditions for hours. Many had their own ways to try to stay warm and dry.
I'm just bundling up as much as possible. We're told to just shed our layers as we go on.
We get some really fancy duct tape on the shoes. I guess it helps to keep some of the moisture out of the shoes.
Sutton's Karen Thibodeau says training in the hills of her hometown prepared her for the race route. To prepare for the weather, she's relying on a lucky outfit.
The race that I actually qualified for to be here today was the exact same conditions. So I wore exactly what I wore that day.
Some area runners spent hours outside training over the winter. They say it's a silver lining. Today hasn't been the coldest day they've run this year.
Us not being used to many good days around here until late April is definitely going to help us.
And spectators who were out in the rain say it's the least they could do to bring a little sunshine for those running.
This isn't any kind of risk compared to what they're doing, I mean, they're chilled to the bone and have 26 miles to go.
And again, runners are wearing extra layers to cope with the weather. Layers shed throughout the 26.2 miles will be collected and donated after the race. In Hopkinton, Chandler Walsh, Worcester News Tonight.
Many are running the marathon for different charities and causes. One central Massachusetts family touched by cancer is running this year for Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Our Brittany Schaefer has their story.
Holden residents Chris and Christy Powers are no strangers to running marathons.
I've run 8 marathons, but 6 for Dana-Farber.
And this will be my 5th and 2nd for Dana-Farber.
And overcoming challenges runs in the family.
Chris is a cancer survivor. I am as well, and we have 4 boys, and one of them was diagnosed with a brain tumor when he was 4. He's been treated at Dana-Farber for the past several years.
The Powers raised more than $16,000 for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute for the 2018 Boston Marathon. Christy says their son participated in a clinical trial, and it made a big difference.
Compared to the year of chemo that he went through, there was so much less of the side effects, that we had to worry about the chemo. He felt better.
It helps develop new drugs every single day, so with my patients, I'm seeing them live longer and longer than we ever imagined.
2016 Holy Cross graduate Nicole Cunley works at Dana-Farber and is running her first marathon.
A little nervous, excited, and everyone's just so excited and supporting each other. It's nice to have a few other Holy Cross people here.
Fellow Crusader Peter Lawrencer says he's proud to be in an international competition representing Central Mass.
Holy Cross is men and women for others, and that was really ingrained in me when I went to school, and so this is really a run for others, and that's what's really important to me. And Worcester was a home for 4 years, and I really loved it there.
The Powers say it'll be a tough 26.2 miles, but they can overcome anything.
I think it's going to be a really challenging day out there. We'll do our best.
We've had worse.
The Powers say 3 out of their 4 sons will be watching along the route today. They say through this tough weather, it'll keep them running. In Hopkinton, Brittany Schaefer, Worcester News Tonight.
A state grant will allow one of Worcester's parks to get some much-needed improvements. The city has received a $300,000 grant through the National Park Service's Land and Water Conservation Fund for upgrades to Hadwen Park. The project will allow upgrading walkways, drainage, and parking, as well as replacing the basketball court and playground. The Baker-Polito administration announced 7 communities, including Worcester, received the federal grants, which total more than $2 million. The death of a Yarmouth police officer hitting home for several police departments across the state. Now an online petition is hoping something will change in the criminal justice system. Our Rosalind Flaherty explains.
An online petition is sparking conversation about the criminal justice system in Massachusetts. It follows the shooting death of Yarmouth police officer Shaun Gannon. Gannon was shot and killed last week, and the man charged in his killing has more than 100 prior charges. The petition wants to hold judges accountable for letting career criminals back on the streets.
Within 2 years of each other and here in Massachusetts, it's tough.
The tragedy hitting home for the town of Auburn, where Officer Ronald Tarantino Jr. was shot and killed by a repeat offender in 2016. The police department shared the petition on their Twitter page and released a statement saying, "We believe that a conversation about how sentencing decisions are made, particularly as they pertain to repeat offenders, needs to begin." State Representative Paul Frost says it's an important conversation, but holding judges accountable is challenging.
It's a very, very difficult process with the Governor's Council and has to go before the legislature. The legislature has a process where we can try to remove judges.
Frost says he thinks there should be a judicial review process where judges are given a term rather than have lifetime appointments.
After the term is up, they should go to the Governor's Council for review, and the governor can make a recommendation on whether to, the governor at that time when their term is up, can make a recommendation to renew them for another, term, or recommend that they not be, they be recalled, or that they not get renewed.
Frost is hopeful more people support having the conversation to make changes.
We do need to direct that frustration and anger and say, all right, what can we do? How do you want to hold the judiciary responsible? How do you want to have the right appropriate laws on the books so those people are locked up?
Family and friends of fallen Yarmouth police officer Shaun Gannon will gather tomorrow and Wednesday to remember his life. The wake is Tuesday and his funeral is Wednesday. Both services will take place at St. Pius X Church in South Yarmouth. The wake is from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. The funeral mass starts at 11 o'clock. As for Gannon's canine partner, Nero is back on his feet. He'll be able to walk down a hallway and eat a little on his own Sunday, thanks to the help of an amazing veterinary team. Nero was also shot during the incident and survived emergency surgery. Switching gears now, today is Patriots Day, and the Worcester Historical Museum is celebrating the Revolution during school vacation week. Anyone who went to the museum Monday got a chance to meet John Hancock. Hancock was the president of the Continental Congress and discussed his Worcester connection and role in the Revolution. Hancock had property in Worcester he escaped to after the first shots of the Revolution were fired at the Lexington Battle Green.
Probably a lot of planning, figuring out what the heck just happened at Lexington and Concord and what we were going to do about the siege in Boston, whether or not we could attack them and end the thing right then and there, or if we even had an army on our hands at all. So we realized it was really, really important for us to leave Worcester as fast as possible and get to Philadelphia and convince people that no, we need to make a stand, we need to put some money into this.
Hancock's trunk is also on display this week. Children under 18 are free for anyone who wants to visit during April vacation.